Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. Hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. Got lots of Stanley Cup playoff news to discuss, along with Ken Holland becoming the next LA Kings GM. We'll talk about that and more. So make sure that you stay tuned into this episode until the end. Before we go ahead and get started, as always, make sure you hit this episode with the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure that you're following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. And again, you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure that you are following this podcast so you can stay up to date on the latest hockey news and the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. But without further ado, we are going to go ahead and get started. So we'll start recapping the Stanley Cup playoff games from Monday, and then we'll recap the Stars and the Jets game 4 from Tuesday, and then so forth. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the Carolina Hurricanes, they pushed the Washington Capitals to the brink of elimination with a 5-2 win on Monday. They lead the best-of-7 series 3-1, one win away from advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they'll be back in the Eastern Conference Finals if they win Game 5 for the first time since 2023, which is when they got swept by the Florida Panthers in 2023 Eastern Conference Final. Matthew Tkachuk with that last second game-winning goal to help the Panthers go on to the 2023 Stanley Cup Final. But Taylor Hall and Sean Walker each scored crucial third-period goals in this game shortly after the Capitals have cut the lead to 1 to push their lead up, or to push their lead back up to like 2-3 goals, and help the Hurricanes keep in control of this game. And both Taylor Hall and Sean Walker each had a goal and assist for 2.9, so both of those guys play pivotal roles. As a Blackhawks fan, love to see the progression that Taylor Hall's doing for the Hurricanes, and love to see him on the Stanley Cup contender if the Hurricanes somehow do go to the Stanley Cup Final. Obviously, he used to play for the Blackhawks at the start of the season, but now he's on the Carolina. I love to see him that he's on the Stanley Cup contender team, because obviously it didn't work out well for us in Chicago. So now he's on Carolina. Shane Gostisbehere, Seth Jarvis, and Andrei Svechnikov also scored for Carolina, while Freddie Anderson made 19 saves in the win. And like I said before on the Hockey Talk with TG podcast, when you're playing at Lenovo Center, that is a tough arena to play at. Those Caniacs fans are really going to bring the energy. And like I said before, based on my perspective from what I've seen from the Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup playoffs the past few years, they perform well at home than they do on the road. It's like every time I watch them play a home game in the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's always going to be a strong performance from the Canes. And those Caniacs down there really bring the energy. So that is a tough environment to play in, tough arena to play in. So, just wanted to point that out once again. Carolina's penalty kill was pivotal. It also played a role in this win, especially during their first period double minor, allowing only one shot on goal and maintaining their lead. And for the Washington Capitals, Jacob Chikrin and the great 8 Alex Ovechkin scored for Washington. Of course, this is Alex Ovechkin's first goal of this series, and first since Game 5 of the first round against the Montreal Canadiens. And we talked about on the Hockey Talk with TG podcast before that you need your best guys to step up for the Washington Capitals, and that is Alex Ovechkin, that is John Carlson. You can even throw Tom Wilson in there based on how he's been a force throughout this Stanley Cup playoffs. Maybe even Dylan Strome, since he's becoming the new Nicholas Backstrom, assisting on Alex Ovechkin's goals. And Logan Thompson made 32 saves in net for the Capitals. And for Washington, their defense absolutely struggled against Carolina. They also struggled on this power play as well. They were 1 for 5 on the power play in this game because Alex Ovechkin's goal coming on the power play from his sweet spot, a one-timer from the left circle. Their power play wasn't doing too much, but hey, when you're up against the best penalty kill in the regular season in the Carolina Hurricanes, that will show you something. They also had the best penalty kill in the Stanley Cup playoffs so far, so their penalty kill will be tough to play against. So that shows something right there. And the Capitals, they also missed a couple of opportunities to generate more scoring chances. And these are my thoughts on what the Capitals need to do to force a Game 6 and get back in the series. So we need to see more from the special teams. Again, I know Carolina's penalty kill will be tough to solve. Their power play is looking good too. But they must capitalize on power play opportunities and strengthen their penalty kill to prevent Carolina from getting a lot of scoring chances and, doing the man advantage. Their defensive play is going to have to work out. We talked about the need for John Carlson to be stepping up. One of these games and one of these series, I believe it was Game 3, he was on the ice for all the goals that Carolina scored in Game 3, which was a 4-0 shutout win for Carolina in Game 3. So we really need to see more defensive play from John Carlson. We also need to see Alex Ovechkin step up in this series. I mean, this is his first goal of the series. Like, he hasn't scored in the previous 3 games of this series, and that's been an issue for Washington. We also need to see, again, Tom Wilson. You can even throw Tom Wilson in this conversation based on how he's been a driving force for the Hurricanes during this not the Hurricanes, the Capitals during this playoffs. And I don't know if you guys will agree with me on this. The majority of you probably won't agree with me on this, but probably when Alex Ovechkin retires, maybe Tom Wilson can be the captain of the Washington Capitals. But again, I don't know if I think the majority of you guys would disagree with me on that decision, and rightfully so, because why would you make Tom Wilson team captain of the Capitals? But I believe he could be the next team captain of the Washington Capitals if Alex Ovechkin retires. And he needs to be able to step up in Game 5 if the Capitals want to get back in this series. And also, maintain discipline. Avoid unnecessary penalties. Hurricanes power play is one of the best power plays I've seen. Their power play is 3rd in this NHL playoffs. LA Kings is 1st and Montreal Canadiens is 2nd. Of course, those 2 teams get eliminated from Stanley Cup playoffs. And Logan Thompson has to be on his toes for Game 5 if the Capitals want to somehow get back in this series. We need to see the Logan Thompson that we saw on the Vegas Golden Knights when he won the Stanley Cup with the Golden Knights. And even though that was Adin Hill in that for the Golden Knights when they went all the way to the Stanley Cup, I think Logan Thompson was the backup goalie. It was either him or Laurent Brossoit, the backup goalie. But we need to see that same Logan Thompson on the Golden Knights. We also need to see the Logan Thompson that we saw on the Capitals in the regular season in Game 5. But Game 5 will be Thursday, tomorrow at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. This game will air on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max for you guys to watch. But moving on to Game 4 of the Edmonton Oilers in the VGK, Vegas Golden Knights. So Stuart Skinner, he made 23 saves in the Oilers' 3-0 shutout win over the Golden Knights. Of course, earlier in this Stanley Cup playoffs, he has struggled. In his first 3 games, it was not good. Game 1, first round versus LA. Game 2, first round versus LA. And then Game 3, second round versus Vegas. These are his stats from his first 3 starts. He was 0-3 with a 5.36 goals against average and a .817 save percentage. Again, not good. He played a total of 168 minutes. And in those 3 games, he made a total of 67 saves on 82 shots faced in net, and he was scored on 15 times throughout those first 3 games. But in Game 4, bounce back performance. I didn't expect him to get the shutout, though. He probably could have got the win, but a shutout is not something I expect from Stuart Skinner based on how he's performed in these first few games, or first few starts, I should say, of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But I felt like he was focused, he was composed, and he remained humble under the pressure. And he ignored all the critics. And there was even people saying, people worrying, I should say, about Stuart Skinner and how he's going to do in Game 4, especially after the Golden Knights shockingly winning 4-3 in Game 3 with Riley Smith in the buzzer beater with 0.4 seconds left to go. I mean, there was people worried about Stuart Skinner, how he performed in the Stanley Cup playoffs, especially with Calvin Pickett being out. And Calvin Pickett took over for Stuart Skinner in Game 3 of the first round against the LA Kings, and he has been instrumental for the Oilers during their playoff run. And he's, been that unsung hero, as I talked about numerous times on the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. And now with Calvin Pickett being out with a leg injury he sustained in Game 2 against the Golden Knights, I heard some people worried about how would Stuart Skinner perform. Well, Stuart Skinner, he came in and shockingly surprised everyone and, had a shutout win. And hopefully he can continue this, he can get back to the Stuart Skinner, I should say, that we saw in the Stanley Cup final last year, even though the Oilers fell short to the Florida Panthers. Hopefully he can get back to, being that Stuart Skinner, because I believe the Oilers want him to be the number one guy. They didn't want him to be number two, but we saw his first two performances in the first round against the LA Kings, so that's why they turned to Calvin Picker. But obviously, you want Stuart Skinner to be your number one guy, and he's going to have to be that number one guy throughout this way Stanley Cup playoffs with Calvin Picker being out. Well, in this game, Adam Henrique had 2 goals in this game, both coming in the first period. Evander Kane had a goal and assist for a 2.9. Of course, he assisted on one of Adam Henrique's goals in the first period. And, of course, that was on that play where Evander Kane collided with Aiden Hill. And Aiden Hill went after him, and he also went after Zach Hyman. So he was not happy about that, and rightfully so. Even the Golden Knights thought they should have got it. That the Oilers should have got a penalty out of that for Evander Kane colliding with Aiden Hill. But it turns out that it was a goal before, the puck went into the net before Evander Kane collided with Aiden Hill. So there was no penalty on the play. Well, I think the Golden Knights did get a power play, because I think the Oilers got a penalty for roughing. So it wasn't on the play that Evander Kane ran into Aiden Hill. It wasn't on that play, but I think it was, during the scrum in the corner. I think that's where Vegas got the power play at. Oilers got a penalty for roughing. I think Vegas somehow got a power play out of that. I'll have to, look back at that. But I believe that's what happened, because I watched the game myself when it was live. And I think I saw Vegas on the power play after, the scrum in the corner. With Aiden Hill going after Evander Kane and Zach Hyman, pretty much everybody on the Edmonton Oilers. For Connor McDavid, he had an assist on Evander Kane's second period goal to extend his playoff point streak to 8 games. And, Stuart Skinner with the shutout. And for the Vegas Golden Knights, Aiden Hill finished the game with 29 saves. Vegas failed to capitalize on 3 first-period power plays and couldn't generate any sustained offensive pressure, which led to this loss. And Vegas Golden Knights head coach Bruce Cassidy emphasized the importance of managing the game better and generating more second chance opportunities to stay competitive. This is what he had to say, and I quote, "We need to do a better job at getting through the neutral zone, breaking them down if we're going to get some looks off the rush. At times we got a few, not enough. We put ourselves behind the 8 ball again early in the game." And he also said that they weren't quote unquote a lot of second chance or second best effort plays for the VGK Vegas Golden Knights. So obviously another loss in this game. And here's what the Golden Knights need to do to force the Game 6 and get back in this series. We need to see more offensive pressure. So this is what Bruce Cassidy was talking about. We need to see more scoring chance, more second chance, more best plays for the Golden Knights. And they're going to be at home at T-Mobile Arena in front of their home fans. That arena's always rocking for Stanley Cup playoff games, especially in the Golden Knights' first year when they went to the Stanley Cup Final in 2018. That arena was, unreal. So they'll have the home crowd on their side. So we need to see the Golden Knights come out with the best effort in Game 5. And, of course, the power play. The power play is going to have to improve. They were 0 for 3, obviously, because they were shut out in that game. So, obviously, they were 0 for 3 in Game 4. But throughout the series, they're 3 for 12. 25% right there. That is not good against Edmonton Oilers team who has been to Stanley Cup Final before. Been there, done that. And you can't afford to, lose Game 5. I was really going to say you can't afford to go down 3-1 in the series, but the Golden Knights are obviously down 3-1 in the series. And it's going to be a tough hill to climb for the VGK Vegas Golden Knights. So when they get their power play chances, they're going to have to capitalize on those power play chances. And, of course, another thing is avoid unnecessary penalties. So I brought this up because we saw Nicholas Roy. I still can't believe he didn't get suspended a couple games for that cross check on Trent Frederick. But avoiding unnecessary penalties like that is going to have to prove a factor for the Golden Knights. They want to get back in this game and prevent Edmonton from generating power play chances or scoring on a power play. Their power play is fifth in the NHL in the Stanley Cup playoffs at 27.3%. Golden Knights have a great penalty kill at fourth in the NHL in the Stanley Cup playoffs at 81.8%. But still, you gotta avoid the unnecessary penalties. You gotta play better if you want a chance, to get back in this series. But Game 5 will be today in Las Vegas, Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. This will be part of an ESPN doubleheader, so it will air on ESPN right after Game 5 of the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs. But now let's go to Game 4 of the Dallas Stars and Winnipeg Jets. So this game was yesterday on Tuesday, and Mikael Granlund, he notched a hat trick in the Stars' 3-1 win over the Jets Tuesday. This is his first career playoff hat trick and his first 3-goal game since December 29th of 2017, and he played for the Minnesota Wild at the time. And this is also the third hat trick the Dallas Stars have in this Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, in the first round, Mikko Rantanen with the hat trick along with an assist for a 4-point night to eliminate his former team, the Colorado Avalanche, in Game 7. And that is one of the greatest Game 7s of all time in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Yes, you can make fun of me for that, but I'm standing true to my word. I believe that was one of the greatest Game 7s of all time in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Mikko Rantanen, 4-point night. All of his points coming in the third period of that game to eliminate his former team in the Colorado Avalanche. And of course, in Game 1 of this second round series between the Jets and Stars, I was about to say Blues for a second, but obviously not play the Blues anymore. Mikko Rantanen had a hat trick in Game 1 to kick off that series. So, and then you got Mikael Granlund getting a hat trick. So the Stars have a lot of finish power on that team. So, and it can't be stopped. But Mikael Granlund, he opened the scoring with a power play goal in the first period, and then he had the game-winning goal late in the second period on a 2-on-1 rush with Rope hits. Along the way, he shot a top shelf, passed the glove, kind of hellbuck. He actually kind of full kind of hellbuck because you go back and as you look at that replay, Mikael Granlund was looking at Rope hits, thinking. And kind of hellbuck thought he was going to pass it to Rope Hintz because he was coming back down on that 2-on-1 rush. He was looking at Rope Hintz, looking like he was going to pass it. But he said, you know what? I'm going to take this myself and I'm going to go top shelf. So he kind of hellbuck on that play. And then, of course, he completed the hat trick in the third period with a one-timer during a 4-minute power play for the Dallas Stars. Miro Heiskanen assisted on that goal. Of course, this is Miro Heiskanen's first game back since being out with a knee injury. His obviously first game back since January 28th, which is where he had that knee injury. And the Stars lead this best-of-7 series 3-1. One win away from advancing to the Western Conference Final for the third straight year. Of course, they went to the Western Conference Finals in 2023 and 2024. Of course, 2023 was a loss to the eventual Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights. And in 2024, last year was a loss to the Edmonton Oilers. And Stars just one win away from going back to the Western Conference Finals. And Jake Oettinger, he made 31 saves in this game for the Dallas Stars. And for the Winnipeg Jets, Nikolai Ehlers scored the long goal. He scored the tying goal early in the second period with a short angle shot after the Jets' power play had expired. And Connor Hellebuck made 21 saves. And with Connor Hellebuck, man, oh man, has it been a struggle on the road for Connor Hellebuck. He has now lost 5 straight road games during the Stanley Cup playoffs. And you should take a look at this record, his road record. They showed this on NHL Network. He is obviously 0-5 with a 5.84 goals against average and a .793 save percentage. That is not good, especially at the state that you're in. You're down 3-1 in this series. Like I said, tough hill to climb. It's always going to be a tough hill to climb when you're down 3-1 in the series. If you take a look at the NBA side, Indiana Pacers, Cleveland Cavaliers. Pacers were up 3-1 in that series, and for the Cavaliers, it was going to be a tough hill to climb for them, especially like in the final minutes where it was getting intense, but the Pacers held their ground, they held on, and they go back to the Eastern Conference Finals. And that was going to be tough for the Cavaliers to come back from a 3-1 series deficit. And it's obviously going to be the same thing for the Capitals, the Golden Knights, and the Jets. And obviously for the Capitals, if they, end up being eliminated, obviously it's going to end a historic run for the great Alex Ovechkin, especially what he has done this season, passing the goal record and becoming the greatest goal scorer of all time in the NHL. But going back to kind of Hellebuyck, overall, he has lost 9 straight road playoff games, I should say, dating back to Game 1 of the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs against the Golden Knights, which was a 5-1 win for the Winnipeg Jets in Game 1 of the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs against the Golden Knights. That was his last road playoff win. And obviously kind of Hellebuyck's going to win the Vezina this year. He's done a lot of great things in the regular season, and it's just when it comes to the playoffs, he can't get it done. And I'm going to say what Frank Saravalli said the other time on the Daily Faceoff podcast. Winnipeg Jets are the Toronto Maple Leafs of the West. That's what Frank Saravalli said at one time when I was listening to the Daily Faceoff podcast. And I certainly believe that, because when it comes to the playoffs for the Winnipeg Jets, they can't seem to get over the hurdle. They can't seem to get it done. I mean, yes, they're the President's Trophy winners, and obviously, most likely, the President's Trophy curse will still continue. And the last team to win the President's Trophy and to win the Stanley Cup was my Chicago Blackhawks in 2013. And you guys will probably hear me say that until a team breaks that President's Trophy curse. And also because I'm a Blackhawks fan, as you guys should know. I say it a lot of times on the Hockey Talk with GG podcast. So she kind of, got your attention that I am a Chicago Blackhawks fan. And also the Jets power play, the Jets power play has continued to struggle in the series. The Jets went 0 for 3 on the power play in Game 4, and they're now 1 for 16 in this series. And that has been a factor on why they lost Game 4 and why they are where they are, down 3-1 in this series. So the power play needs to convert when they have the advantage. Look, they need to take advantage of that power play and capitalize. And that's probably going to change this series and help them get back into the series. But Game 5 will be tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Central Time on Thursday. This game will air on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max for you guys to watch. But moving on to the LA Kings. So there's rumors going on that Ken Holland could be the next general manager of the LA Kings after the LA Kings decided to part ways with former defenseman and Hockey Hall of Famer Rob Blake. Ken Holland could step in as the next general manager of the Edmonton Oilers. And of course, he's been a general manager of the Detroit Red Wings and most recently being the Edmonton Oilers. And he's won 3 Stanley Cups with the Detroit Red Wings as general manager, of course, in 1998, 2002, and 2008. And of course, he also helped the Oilers advance to the Stanley Cup final last season before losing to the Florida Panthers in 7 games. And I think this would be great to see for the LA Kings. And of course, Luc Robitaille, you guys may have known, he did play for the Detroit Red Wings in 2002. And Luc Robitaille is the LA Kings team president. And Ken Holland did have him as a player during the Red Wings 2002 Stanley Cup run. So their shared history and mutual respect for each other could be the turning point for this LA Kings franchise after losing 4 straight first round playoff series against the Edmonton Oilers. 2022 was a loss, 2023 was a loss, 2024 loss, 2025 obviously a loss. Then as you take a look at the LA Kings during those first round exits, 2021-22 season, they finished with a 44-27-11 record with 99 points, third in the Pacific Division. In 2022-23, it was 47-25-10 with 104 points, third in the Pacific Division. 2023-24, 44-27-11 record with 99 points, third in the Pacific Division. And now 2024-25, 48-25-9 record with 105 points, second in Pacific Division. So, you do good in the regular season. I thought this was, to be honest with you guys, I thought this was going to be the year that the LA Kings could get over the hump and defeat the Edmonton Oilers. Obviously, you guys will hear me say this a lot until the Oilers get eliminated at the start of this season. Before the 2024-25 season started, I made a bold prediction. If you missed my bold predictions video on the TG Hockey channel, I made a bold prediction saying the Edmonton Oilers will win the Stanley Cup. And it's not going to lie to you guys, throughout these Stanley Cup playoffs, I kind of have been doubting myself about me saying that the Oilers will win the Stanley Cup. Obviously, that was a bold prediction. I said I kind of been doubting myself, thinking, will the Oilers really get it done? But who knows? The Stanley Cup playoffs anything can happen in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, don't know if my bold prediction will be right or not, but we'll just have to see how everything goes. But I really think Ken Holland would make a great GM for the LA Kings, and I think maybe this might change for the LA Kings. Maybe they might somehow do better and advance past the first round, because LA Kings have not won a playoff series since 2014, and that was the year that they won the Stanley Cup. So obviously they are looking to get over that first round hurdle right there. But let me know you guys' thoughts on Ken Holland being the GM. Do you think this will be a great decision? Do you think it will be a bad decision? Do you think you prefer a better GM? Obviously, the Islanders are still without a GM as they, now have the first overall pick in the 2025 NHL draft. So don't know who's going to be drafting who for the Islanders, because they are currently, I believe, without a GM for their team. But it's going to be really interesting to see Ken Holland as the next general manager of the Edmonton Oilers. Again, not the Edmonton Oilers, the LA Kings. Obviously, he had Luc Robitaille as a player in Detroit during the 2002 Stanley Cup run, and he's mentored him well. And I'm pretty sure this will be a great thing for LA, and see if they can get over that first round hurdle, and hopefully they won't have to face the Edmonton Oilers for the 5th straight year in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But the Stanley Cup playoff games on the slate for today, there's only 2 Stanley Cup playoff games on the slate, both being a doubleheader on ESPN, both being Game 5s. We got Game 5 of the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That series is tied up at 2 games apiece. The home team has won the first 4 games of this series, and could that trend continue, or will the Florida Panthers do what the Edmonton Oilers did to the LA Kings in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and that is come back and win the next 4 straight after being down 2-0 in the series? Could we see that play out? And then we got Game 5 of the Edmonton Oilers and the VGK Vegas Golden Knights at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. The Oilers lead that best-of-7 series 3-1. One win away from going back to the Western Conference Finals for the 2nd straight year. And if that happens, they will play the winner of the Dallas Stars and Winnipeg Jets in the Western Conference Finals if they happen to be the team to make it to the Western Conference Finals. So could that happen tonight, or could the Golden Knights force a Game 6 back in Edmonton? We'll just have to see how that plays out. That's going to do it for this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on YouTube if you have not already. Make sure to follow the Hockey Talk with TG Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk TG Podcast and the latest hockey news that is going around the league. Both of you guys have a great rest of your day. God first, as always. Be blessed. I will see you guys Friday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG Podcast. Take care.